Scott Morrison will be promoted to be Minister for Social Services. I can think of no finer advocate than Scott Morrison. Not only is he a splendid advocate, but he is the master of difficult policy and administration, as he's abundantly demonstrated in all but stopping the boats over the last 15 months. The Ministry for Social Services is essentially a ministry for economic participation, and it's very important to have a minister of Scott's drive and competence in this role, because this is about trying to ensure that Australians are having a go. If you want to get a fair go, you've got to give a fair go, and that's what this ministry is all about. It's about getting a fair go and encouraging people to give a fair go. A very important part of the government's political agenda in 2015, and Scott, as Minister for Social Services, will be the minister responsible for crafting the holistic families package, which is going to be such an important part of our political and economic agenda in the first half of next year, which, as you know, will involve a better targeted paid parental leave scheme and increased and improved childcare. Peter Dutton will become the new Minister for Immigration and Border Security. Peter is a tough, no-nonsense individual, and he is very well placed to ensure that our borders remain secure and that the boats stay stopped. Susan Lee is being promoted into Cabinet as the Minister for Health and the Minister for Sport. She's done excellent work as the Assistant Minister for Education. She's handled the Parliament with great aplomb. She's had a very diverse life, Susan, before entering Parliament. She's been an air traffic controller, a farmer, as well as having a career with the Australian Tax Office, and I'm very pleased to have Susan in the Cabinet team. Josh Frydenberg becomes the new Assistant Treasurer. Josh is one of the government's most prolific and effective media performers, and again, his presence in this role is a sign of my determination, the government's determination to make the economy front and centre in 2015. Josh, as you all know, has done an excellent job as my Parliamentary Secretary in cutting at least $2 billion a year from business red tape costs. The education portfolio will become the portfolio of education and training. There will be some added programs that move from industry into that portfolio. Industry will become the portfolio of industry and science. I'm delighted that Simon Birmingham will become the Assistant Minister for Education and Training, and he will have particular responsibility for the government's training agenda, because we must have skilled workers if our economy is to keep growing. Ian Macfarlane will be assisted by Karen Andrews as Parliamentary Secretary. She's chairing the Parliamentary Friends of Science Committee. She was an engineer before coming into the Parliament, and I know she will help to emphasise the government's determination to put science at the heart of industry policy. I should record my gratitude to Senator David Johnson, who's standing down as Minister for Defence and will leave the ministry. David has done a fine job as Defence Minister. He's copped a bit of flack unfairly. He has done a fine job. I particularly commend him on his work in defence procurement. I also congratulate him for the way he has supervised our very extensive military deployments in the last few months, first to Europe as part of the MH17 response, and then to Iraq, where our armed forces are continuing to do very good work on a daily basis. Kevin Andrews will become the Minister for Defence. Kevin is one of the government's most experienced ministers, and he will be a very safe pair of hands in this vital portfolio. I want to thank Senator Brett Mason, for his work as Parliamentary Secretary for Foreign Affairs, particularly his work to establish the New Colombo Plan, which is going to be such an important contribution to Australia and our region in the months and years and decades ahead. I'm confident that both Senator Johnson and Senator Mason will continue to serve the government in various capacities in the months and years ahead. Steve Ciobo will become the new Parliamentary Secretary for Foreign Affairs. He will have a dual appointment as Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Trade and Investment as well, and I think he is well placed to build on the government's mighty achievement over the last 12 months of finalising these three vital free trade agreements. Bob Baldwin will shift from industry to become Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for the Environment. There are three new appointments to the front bench as Parliamentary Secretary. Christian Porter will become Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister. As you know, he's a former Treasurer and Attorney General in the West Australian Government. He was a great addition to this Parliament, and he will be a great addition to the ministerial team. Kelly O'Dwyer will become Parliamentary Secretary to the Treasurer in recognition of her work as Chair of the House of Representatives Standing Committee on Economics. And as I said earlier, Karen Andrews will become Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Industry and Science. I thought that I should take the opportunity provided by the resignation of Senator Sinodinos to have a slightly wider reshuffle. It does provide me with the opportunity to refresh and reset the government, and that's exactly what I've done. Just because someone leaves the government doesn't mean that he or she has done a poor job. Arthur did an excellent job as Assistant Treasurer. I deeply regret the fact that the continuing investigation in New South Wales has meant that he's had to leave the ministry at this time. Jono did a fine job as Defence Minister, and Brett Mason has done a good job in his role. So they've all done a good job, and one way or another, all of them will continue to serve our country and our government in the months and years ahead.